Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. Butch.
What's up, buddy?
This weekend, we've got additional snapper days, October 4, 5, 6. Is that right?
That is correct. 4, 5, and 6, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Always got to put that disclaimer in there. You know, I don't have my rule book out. But looking pretty good, man. Really, northeast winds 5 to 10 knots, becoming southeast.
I think
3
Friday
to 8.
Friday and Saturday morning, that's when you need to get it done. I think Saturday evening about 1 p.m. it's going to breeze up, so get on back by then. Sunday is looking pretty rough.
Yeah, if I was
4 foot,
if it was me,
foot.
I'd be fishing Friday and Saturday, trying to do my thing then, rather than wait around for it to kick up. You know, that's the good thing about this snapper check deal. If it kicks up,
right.
You're in a small boat, don't take the risk, man. Most likely nobody else. If nobody else does, it's already been proven we're going to get some more days if the weather holds you out. But this is one of those forecasts that if you're trying to plan your trip, I feel like some people are going to say, nah, I'm not going to go. But I feel like this is one of those forecasts where you really need to get your stuff ready, plan on
be
going.
Ready.
Poke your head out there, you know, because, I mean, I fished Monday with Richard Rutland, and we were looking for cobia, and, you know, it was pretty windy to start the day.
Did you remember how to use, like, the rod and the reel and the line and stuff?
Well, I got a quick tutorial from Captain Blood.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I mean, he took me through it. But anyway, back to the weather. It's pretty choppy early, and, you know, once you got out of the bay, it was definitely pretty sporty for a small boat. But then, you know, about 11 o'clock, that wind laid down, it got slick calm, man. It was beautiful for the rest of the day. And that's just one of those things. Like, if you'd been down there that morning looking at it, go, nah, let's don't go. And you may pack up, head to the house, and it would have been a gorgeous day to be offshore. I think you're just going to have to poke your head out there and see what's going on. Did you do some fishing this week?
I did, man. I got invited out with old Captain Patrick Garmison. We did some of that sight fishing for them pumpkin reds. Man, we had an absolute blast. I did not want to leave. I had never been up fishing in the Delta. I mean, I grew up on the island. I didn't really fish north of the bridge. Honestly, I never.
Anybody fishing north of the bridge is pretty much Yankee, right?
And I mean Dolphin Island Bridge, not the I-10 bridge. So we went up there north of the I-10 bridge, and man, it was awesome. I've never so much life. I mean, everything. We saw a bunch of big giant reds, caught a bunch of them. All those carp up there. Sheephead, stingrays. It was just crazy. Life everywhere. Saw a bunch of bald eagles playing. It was a really cool day. It was beautiful. Bluebird skies. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
I'm not going to say it too loud, but things are looking pretty good for the fall. If
I know.
Just get a little bit cooler temperatures, you know, please take a 5-degree cool down. It's looking real, real good. And today we've got some reports that are showing some changes offshore, which I'm really excited about. You and I got a trip coming up end of October. Yep. We do every year. I'm really looking forward to that. But let's go find out what's going on offshore in advance of this weekend. Let's go talk to Devin Potts. Devin, welcome back to the show.
How's it going, man?
We're having a great week, man. A little bit before the show, we got to talk to you about y'all's trip last week. I'm really excited to hear that Bluewater is looking up finally. Tell us about your trip.
Man, we had a banner trip. We left out Wednesday. Actually went on a center console on Freeman and got out there. And, man, we ended up starting fishing, I guess, around 10 o'clock. And, yeah, we ended up released our first fish at 11, like 10 after 11 or something, and ended up getting like 7 bites and catching 4. So
wow.
It was pretty banner day. Pretty intense bites.
I bet,
so it's pretty cool.
7 bites in about 8 hours. That's
that's more
action.
fish. That's more catching than fishing. It's the way we like it, you know.
Yeah. So this is all you guys were live baiting?
Yes, we're using live bait and a lot of small little black fins out there now, and I mean you catch a couple and pick them out, and as fast as you get it out, we were getting bit, and it was fun. It was fun to be a part of something like that. You know, I've been doing this my whole career, and I've never gotten that many bites in a day or anything like that. And, you know, we ended up staying overnight and getting a couple more bites the next day and catching one more. So it was cool. It was really cool and really neat to see the fish be that plentiful. You know, it's just crazy to think that you could come here and fish and do something like that here off Alabama. So that's kind of
Very,
kind of something you read about somewhere else, like St. Thomas or something like that, where the marlin fishery is a lot more.
So you guys were 5 for 8 on marlin, which is unbelievable numbers.
Yes.
What about the tuna situation? Did y'all catch any tunas?
We did. We caught a couple of tunas that ate a couple of blackfins, a couple of bait thieves. So, which turned out to be normally the bigger grade yellowfin. So we had one about 100, and another one about 125. But that was cool. Those fish kind of came on later Thursday afternoon, and just out of nowhere.
I think 100-pound tuna is kind of that's the perfect size. Anything bigger than that,
it is.
They're just
even funner.
Bear. They're a bear.
Yeah, it's even if funner is a word.
Definitely.
Yeah,
is.
80 wide with 200-pound test leaders. Yeah,
being able to actually wire them. Yeah.
Right. It's like I've been dealing with these fish the whole life, babying them on 60 and 80 and 100 pound, worried about popping them off. It's like, oh yeah, got you on the right gear this time, fella.
It's my turn now.
Yep.
So Devin, you guys got out there pretty close to the middle of the day, and I mean, was it pretty easy to make bait that time?
Man, it was bait everywhere. It was really, really, really a lot of fish, a lot of bait. We were in the vicinity of the marlin, beer can, rampile area, and kind of fished around those rigs. And man, it was just all 3 rigs. The marlin rig had quite a bit of bait, and so did the RP. The beer can had quite a bit of bait too, and we were just, man, it was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. All those rigs were just holding a lot of bait, and it was just a lot. There was nobody out there though. Man, it was like pulling up out there and just having a big wad of bait, just like you would see used to in the past. So yeah, they just plenty of it, a lot of action, a lot of stuff. You could tell it just looked really fishy. The water was blue-green, wasn't cobalt blue, but the bait was there, and a lot of times that's all it takes. Right situation. You get a lot of those baits around. There's got to be something there to eat them. So
all about the bait for sure.
No doubt. So
I find it intriguing about the, you were telling us a little bit about it earlier. Joe and I have talked about it before too. I've never fished on a center console boat like that. And I know that you haven't done a ton of that. Was that a big adjustment?
Yeah, in a sense, everything, especially marlin fishing, you got the long leaders and, tuna fishing, those fish kind of tend to do big circles. So if you get one up on the bow, you can deal with them. But marlin fishing, when you get them on the leader, a twin screw boat kind of twists and moves and a little more nimble. Yeah. Whereas an outboard, if you fight them up on the bow, the guy driving the boat a lot of times can't see. So he's steadily getting directions from the guy up there looking over the edge and watching the line. And it gets a little hairy there towards the end, when you've got 30 foot of leader and pissed off fish. But, if you got somebody that can take direction really easily and make the boat do what he's supposed to be doing and make it do what it needs to do. It's all irrelevant, man. It's all what you got, what you get used to, and it's just a little different than what I'm used to. But those guys I was fishing with have it dialed in very well.
So Devin, it sounds like what you're saying is the deckhand gets to tell the captain what to do.
Pretty much. I mean, there's no glory in driving.
Well, yeah, I'm ready. You just sold me. You just sold me on center consoles. I'm on.
Yeah, constantly being told, all right, turn left, turn right, back up. No backup harder. It's just constantly if you're fighting them in the back, if these fish are hooked on a circle hook, a lot of times they change directions really quickly. You got those motors back there that can cut the line. There's just a lot of variables. So we found that fighting them in the front of the boat and setting up for that is a little easier in terms of that, So yeah, it's just different. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but nothing can't be done. And hell of a fishing platform to be on. There's Freeman's are great boats. Probably, I don't know. There's very good reason why there's a list 2 years long or whatever it is. I hear, I only hear about. I don't know, but yeah, it's pretty wild. So.
Well, that's awesome to hear, man. That's a great report. If folks can get out there now, we were talking about this a few weeks ago. I mean, the fall, it happens every year. This time of year, man.
Yeah, man.
Everybody's thinking about hunting and football, and they forget about the fact that all those fish are still out there. And this is the time. I mean, if you want to get out there and really have a chance at getting after big numbers of billfish, big numbers of all the different pelagics.
I've been seeing some nice wahoo caught too.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys run across? Was there any rips made up or any?
Not really.
Grass.
Not really. I didn't see much grass. Nothing. Just I tell you what, I saw a lot of just regular, and I don't know that I've ever seen a whole lot of that. But you see, like when we stopped the boat, just like little butterbean hardtails and stuff were just swimming up to the boat.
Mm.
So there was an insane amount of bait out there. And when we like spent the night and woke up in the morning, it was like, I mean, you could have sank the boat in live bait. It was just that crazy. So
it's awesome. Good to hear.
A lot of bait.
Good to see. I'm sure.
Man,
I'm jealous.
Awesome.
Wish I'd have been there.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get to do it again, or it'll ever happen like that again, but I'll take it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, I want to hear an offshore tip from you and what you felt like was key this week. This week's offshore tip is brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charters. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's real-time navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check it out at hiltonsoffshore.com. All right, Devin, what you got for an offshore tip?
Man, I would say, you know, I think the key a lot of times, and not to just this past week's trip, but you know, I used to try to stick to this rule sometimes, and a lot of times it doesn't work because they make boats faster with longer range. It can reach just about anywhere in the Gulf, but try to fish places or fish during the week or fish an area that's just, the biggest thing is I think we were out there and there was nobody there, you know, for that one full day, and the bait and the fish, it was all kind of natural what was happening, you know.
No competition.
Because the very next day you get 6 or 8 tuna fishing boats show up and they're parked on top of the bait. It just completely changes the entire scenario, you know? So, I mean, it just does. It changes the fish, whether they get scattered, I don't know. So I used to always say, well, you know, if there's 5 fish, I'd rather fish around a rig with 1 or 2 hungry fish. I'd rather fish around a rig and be by myself with 1 or 2 fish at a rig versus fish at a rig with 5 other boats with 5 or 6 hungry fish. You know, I like the odds of, if I'm there, he likes what I got, or he likes nothing at all, you know?
Yeah. I like that. And you don't, you know, I mean, it's not really something that when you're out there and you see all that water and all that just possibility for where fish could be, you don't think that they would feel pressure. But when they're congregating and orienting to that rig as structure, man, it's not really that big of an area.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it plays a
big role. And then so they're like, I mean, you got to look at the situation, and you may be riding by a rig, it may be blue-green water, it may be some scenario where you're like, oh man, we're just going to ride on down here to whatever, Geico or somewhere else, you know, try to get a little further, water look a little prettier. Fish don't really care, you know, exactly what the water looks like. You know, I've seen them in dirtier water than that, and it's not my favorite thing to do is to fish in absolute green water. I can't mentally do it, but blue-green water, this time of year especially, if the bait's there, you just got to try it. It doesn't matter where you're at. A lot of time the bait's on the continental shelf somewhere up in there close, so a lot of the rigs like the old Elf rig and, you know, 989, Petronia, some of those rigs, a lot of times, man, the bonitas and the other stuff will get hoarded up in there, and those marlins are stacking there with them, and you can have some pretty epic days, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're thinking about a charter too, you know, think about the middle of the week. Don't necessarily, you know, just because you're off of work on the weekends. So's everybody else.
Schedule it. Think about it in terms of, you know, like I said before, if there's a handful of fish that are going to bite, if you're there and you're the only one there, then there's a chance your odds go up
way
extremely well.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
But what you do with it after that, it's kind of
on you. That's right.
But you know, not everybody has that ability, but it's just if you can. I mean, it's not necessarily. I mean, don't have to be on a weekday. It can be on a weekend. You know, a lot of people that ride, you know, if it's flat home, they'll ride 100 miles. You know, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like I went 396 miles round trip the week before to only catch one marlin, and was glad to have it because it made the trip,
Yeah. Well, Devin,
everything from Thunder Horse back. So
that's a great report, man. That's as good a report as we've had in 2019, to be honest with you. So I'm proud of you, man. That's a heck of a day and heck of a 24-hour period. I never done anything like that. Congratulations on that, and thanks for.
Man, it's lucky. Right place, right time.
If folks want to get in touch with you, I know you do some boat sales. If folks are interested in maybe listing their boat, wintertime's a good time to be thinking about that. Fall in the winter,
it is
kind of getting prepared.
Crazy. September is a great month, man. There's just past 2 years, September has been. I don't know if it's just because people are. I think it's partially that. I think it's because people are moving on and getting new boats, and maybe they're getting rid of their old boat, and I don't know, but there's definitely been some action here. So we just about listed and sold just about everything sold that we have listed. We have one boat, one really nice custom boat available. It's a really, really, really nice boat. It's completely refit, completely redone, new engines, new interior. There's probably an insane amount of money spent on it, but
if folks want to get in touch with you, see what you've got listed, or maybe look at listing their boat, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
251-379-6005.
All right, Devin.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks again, buddy. We'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Woo, Butch.
It's exciting.
You ready to go now?
Gets me fired up, Cap. It's very exciting.
Man, that's just awesome. I've never had a day like that marlin fishing.
Well, that's because you suck.
That's very aggressive. I feel like this is a little bit too much aggression for today. I'm not sure what I did. Have I wronged you in another life?
No, just stop missing fish.
Well, we got another story coming up about that. Anyway, where are we going next, man?
Let's head on down to the Gulf beaches, man. See what the Bama Beach bum's up to. What'd you say, Matthew?
What's up, guys? Glad to be back on the show. I just really need you guys to turn down the temperatures outside. It's still hot. It's October.
Oh, man, there's no doubt. It's tough. I took old Pepper. I went and got my black lab, thank goodness, this weekend from Arkansas. She's been gone for 3 months. I took her on a walk earlier. We both almost died.
Yeah, it's brutal. And like the guy I took to get today, he was like, I booked the trip to come now because I thought it'd be cooler, and it's still really hot. He was upset about it, as was I. Understandably so.
I think everybody is upset about how hot it's been.
Right. Let's talk about it some more. That ought to help.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just whine about it until it's not hot anymore.
and I usually don't. I always tell people I usually do not complain about heat nearly as much as I complain about cold, because like heat, like you live in the South, man, and I'm fishing the beach, like you sign up for that. But like when it's cold for a long period of time, like that gets annoying to me down here, and it feels like it was the last couple of years, just kind of lingered through April and May. So I usually don't complain, but it is hot. It's brutal.
Maybe it's my northern Eastern European lineage, but I don't think I've ever once complained about cold weather in my life.
Me either. I like being cold.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
I like fishing in the cold.
Me too.
I like hunting in the cold. I like just being in the cold, I think.
Same.
It's your cold soul.
Well, we can dream about that, but
anyways,
what's this doing to the surf fishing? I mean, we talk a lot about really the length of the day meaning more, but when we were out on the water earlier this week, the temperatures in Mobile Bay, the water temperature was still 85 degrees. What's happening on the beach?
It's really cool and interesting to see, and I know we talk about this all the time as far as water temperatures not being the only factor, and even though despite the fact that it's still hot, we are still seeing those patterns change, and I'd say we're basically entering full swing fall, and that's what we're seeing as far as fish activity, the types of fish that we're seeing right now. The only difference that I would say I think will begin to change as we start to get these temperatures to eventually drop, if they ever do, is the fish will get bigger. Like that's generally what we start to see as we get lower water temperatures, and we just start to see the bigger redfish, bigger whiting, more consistent consistently. Like the bull redfish is what I'm saying. As of right now, we're just seeing the slot redfish, which is great. We love that. I mean, I would prefer catching slots, but so I know some people are all in it about the big bulls. So that's the only difference that I would say will happen as I think we get the lower temperatures. We'll just get bigger quality fish. But for right now, we're seeing the species that should be present throughout fall, and less of the pompano right now. But we are still getting some of those, which we've been in this pattern where like we'll get 3 or 4 days of pretty rough surf. Like we've been getting some east winds over the last couple of weeks that'll last like 3 or 4 days, and it'll kind of rough up our surf. It makes the water real dingy, not really muddy, but it just dirties it up a little bit. And throughout that time period, like we do really well, like extremely well with the redfish, black drum, whiting. Like we're crushing it those days, and you're not going to find a pompano. But then it'll kind of taper off and die back down, where it's like it'll kind of calm out. The water will get more clear, and we will still catch redfish, black drum, and whiting, but it slows up a lot more, like drastically. But we get the opportunity at the pompano. And that's kind of been the same little pattern we've been dealing with the last couple of weeks. So like if you kind of see that taking place, like if you're going out fishing right now, and you've got really rough surf, dingy water, forget about your pompano and go for those drum species. But if you get a day that's kind of fairly calm, really clear, you should have a really good shot at the pompano. So it's just that's kind of what we've been riding with here lately.
Matthew, on Monday, the wind was kind of northeast, east-northeast, and the water looked great. I mean, there was some really pretty water over off the Gulf beaches that we saw. Mm-hmm. When you've got that little bit of east in there, as opposed to just a hard north, we're going to start to see a lot more north winds here. I truly believe we are going to have a fall or a winter, one or the other.
Yeah, it has to happen.
When you start seeing those northerly winds, are there any? The Alabama coastline's fairly east to west. Are there any areas that when you've got a little northeast in it that set up better? Is there anything that you look for as far as trying to pick which beach you're going to fish?
Northeast, honestly, like it's not going to. Because of the direction that we facing south, the northeast wind, as long as it's a true northeast, not more coming out of the east, it's going to flatten out pretty good on the Gulf side. So, the Bay, I'm not sure. I don't pay as much attention. I don't know how much it affects it, but with the on the beaches, it's going to be pretty flat. So on those days, like the old, like if you ask a lot of guys. And I think people just listen to what other people say most of the time. They're not actually out there fishing. So if you ask most people, they're like, "Oh, you got to have some rough surf to catch pompano." Like you're not going to catch them on a flat, calm day. Like I hear that all the time. But honestly, like the better days for your pompano are usually calm days. So like if we get a good north wind, generally right now, even if it is a little bit out of the northeast, it should still be pretty calm, pretty smooth. On the surf side of things. And if it's clear in conjunction with that, man, right now we've had some really good days with pompano, despite the fact that it's, late summer here, even though it's supposed to be fall, even though it's really hot, we're still seeing those pompano as long as the conditions set up for them properly.
So the next time somebody says that to me, I'm just going to be like, yeah, man, that's completely right. Those north wind days are terrible. You should probably, watch football or something.
Should not fish those days.
Yeah. Don't go on the beach. Yeah. Make it a little less crowded. That'd be great.
All right, man. That's a great report, man. I've been seeing a bunch of pictures. You guys have been smashing those big whiting. I think that was yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
Delicious eats. Also saw where you were a big part of that Salty Kids. Tell me a little bit about that. That was on the Gulf State Park Pier, correct?
Yeah. This was the first year they put it together, and I don't fish the pier much, but I did volunteer my services because I just wanted to be a part of the event. It looked like a cool thing. And it really was. It was really neat to be a part of. This was the first year they did it. And the way that this kind of came to be, if you're unfamiliar, there was evidently an incident on the pier where somebody had really just jumped on a kid about something. I don't even know the whole story, but somebody just yelled at a kid on the pier for doing something, and it was just kind of a bad scene. And from that, this idea came to be, like, hey, we want kids out there fishing. We don't need to be giving kids a hard time if they're on the pier fishing. We need to help them, and if they're doing something wrong, I mean, it's okay to correct them, but not
to teach them. Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't bust them or beat them down over it. So,
right.
So that's how the idea came from for the pier.
So was part of the instruction like how to kick an old man in the kneecap if he
should have been?
You want to go for more. Yeah. You want more of an angle because you want to injure. Go for the injury.
Right. Yes, make sure you take them down. We didn't have any jiu-jitsu classes or anything, but we did try to teach them as much as possible. Which when we started out, what they actually had to do before they could get on the pier and actually start fishing, we had all these different stations that the kids would go to, and we had this little book, and we would kind of mark off each little section as they went through it. And just teaching them how to tie knots, like a few basic knots. They went to a station to learn about different lures, just some basic lures, that they can use for fishing. The station that I was at was about regulations, which it was really, it was very basic, but just putting that information out there, like, hey, there's a lot of fish that are regulated, and, you're supposed to measure your fish and make sure that they're legal, that they're over a certain size. And, we gave them a little paper to show them the regulations. And even the parents that were with them, a lot of times they were like, oh, I knew that they were out there. I didn't know what they were. And, so like it was really educational for these people.
That's awesome.
Just basic stuff. Yeah. Which I think is great because, that's always what I see when people are getting into saltwater fishing is they just don't know their species. They don't know the regulations and, just those basic things that you need to know before you get out there. So that you are, conserving the resource. So, but yeah, we didn't really crush the fishing, but that wasn't really the goal.
Yeah.
But we did catch fish. Just, nothing spectacular, but like it was just they were expecting 50 kids, like that was the goal for the event, and I think we ended up having over 100.
Wow.
I can't remember exactly. So yeah, there was just a lot of kids. But so it was kind of a madhouse. Volunteers were running around, but what I did, I just walked out there and just basically started looking for people that just kind of looked like they were standing around with their finger up their butt and not knowing what to do and trying to help tie rigs and make sure they were rigged right and at least have bait on their hook or, if they actually were catching a fish like a pinfish or a blue runner, whatever, I was helping them just take it off the hook and toss it back. I was just trying to lend a hand wherever I could, just to kind of keep things going and try to help people catch some fish. So it was really cool. It was a neat event, and I hope it continues. And I think it's a great thing to get kids excited about fishing.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Well, thanks for giving some of your time to get out there and do that. Butch, you need to get involved with that next year. You need to go out there and show those kids what you're really good at, so they could set up like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich making station or something like that.
I'm better at grilled cheeses, actually. I'm better at grilled cheeses. And I can guarantee you those kids don't want to learn how to fish the way I learned how to fish. I can 100% guarantee
So are
that.
you saying that like they'd be begging for the old man to come yell at them again? Is that what it is?
That is correct. Nah, I'm just kidding. Matt, that's awesome, Matthew. Again, thanks for giving your time with those kids. I know they appreciate it, and hopefully they take it up, man.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see.
We'd like to get that tip from you each week. And, we've talked at length on here about the dock dysfunction that has affected us for years. The good news is that our suffering has finally come to an end. KillerDock brings a dock enhancement that not only will put an end to your dock dysfunction, it will make being on your dock enjoyable again. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. To check out the greatest fish cleaning stations known to mankind, visit KillerDock.com to check it out for yourself. What'd you think for a tip this week, buddy? So,
something that just recently happened to me. I was so fortunate to have a subscriber actually send me a beach cart. As nice as that is, like I was blown away. And somebody just mailed me a beach cart, and it was one that had the balloon tires on it, which I've never had. And my surf fishing career, I've always used the black rubber tires, which are okay, but they just do not roll nearly as well as the big balloon tires. And you've got to have one of these. Like if you're doing a lot of beach fishing, it just is. It's amazing the difference. I never would have thought it would have made this big of a difference, but it really does. And I actually do have back and hip issues now that I'm having to schedule chiropractor appointments because of dragging a rubber tire beach cart for the last 2 years guiding as much as I have. So it's definitely worth it. And something else that I learned from another buddy of mine, most people drag their beach cart behind them. You know, they'll have their arm behind them and they pull it, and it rolls okay that way, but your body's in a really unnatural position. So like you're twisting, and that's where my hip problem comes from. Is, you know, I've just been twisted so long pulling that load, and that's just not really how, you know, that's not proper technique to lift anything or movement. So what he does when you have the actual balloon tires, you can't do this with the rubber tires because they just don't roll as well. But the balloon tires, you can push it, and it's way easier. It's way less stress on your back. It's more of a natural position if you just kind of hold that cart and push. And that's what I've started doing, and it's made my life 1,000 times easier on the beach. So just a couple of basic things. If you see me out there now, you'll see me pushing it like I'm rolling a shopping cart down the beach, and it's so much easier.
Well, you could probably charge extra if you just like let one of your customers get in the cart.
I would definitely pay for that.
I thought about that. You know, I'm going to add a line item on my pricing that, you know, you can hitch a ride. But
right.
Well, that's good, man. You're not getting any younger, so you might as well preserve what you got now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a fact.
I'm learning that the hard way.
Well, good, man. Sounds like surf fishing's been good. Hopefully it'll just up and get better, and those bigger redfish will come out and get some cooler temperatures.
Yeah. It's been great. I'm looking forward to this fall, just from what I've seen so far. Definitely been good from this point.
Awesome, good. Well, I'm sure we'll talk to you soon, and keep whacking them, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
Sounds like things are firing off in the surf, man. It's always great to hear from the old Bama beach bum. Let's round this thing off, man. Where are we headed to next?
Let's go talk to my good buddy Richard Rutland. Cold-blooded fishing. Ricardo.
What's happening, essays?
What's going on, Captain Blood?
Man, just enjoying an afternoon with my two daughters here at the house. Been in my rod shop today. Unfortunately, I wish I'd have been fishing, but had to get a few things done in there and
gotta have
groom some of my tackle.
That's right. Gotta have those days indeed.
It's all about preparation.
Richard, you and I had a great day on the water Monday with some bad luck, which I will totally blame on my father.
I feel like you blame a lot on my buddy, Mr. Emery. That's not cool.
He's not here to defend himself, so that's pretty easy target. So
hey, he was the first to tell us when he got on the boat he was bad luck too.
He did. He did say he was the common denominator. I don't know, man. I had a great day on Monday. We did a little cobia fishing. We had plenty of opportunity. I'll put it that way, and we had plenty of bites. We either didn't do our job as anglers, or I still say it's just some bad luck. Other than the day we went, how's the cobia fishing been?
Man, it's been good. It's kind of been one of those things where you can go one day, like I've had this happen several times. Like, we'll just kind of go back to last week. I went on Friday, and actually I went on Thursday, and I saw a ton of fish and left them alone. And then I went on Friday and hardly saw any fish. I was ready just to kill everything I saw. Hardly saw any fish. Don't even think we boated one. And then go on Sunday, and we had an awesome day. And then Monday we go and see a few fish, and we kind of goofed up a couple hook sets and whatnot, and just didn't get lucky. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of what it is right now. Is just going and trying to get lucky. And you can't get lucky if you don't go. You know what I mean? It's one of those kind of things. So it's been consistent and inconsistent at the same time. I know that's kind of a messed up answer to give you, but it's been enjoyable. You know, like you and I went on Monday, and we at least saw a bunch of fish, so that was fun.
Yeah, day to day is a good way
had
to
some
put
opportunities.
that.
It is. It's day to day.
Man,
and I don't know what to point the finger at as far as that goes, but golly, you just got to assume with the water temps being as high as they are, still being up in the mid to upper 80s and not cooling off any is not helping anything. If it would cool off just a taste, which it looks like we're going to get this weekend and into next week, I really look for it to get better, to improve.
Joe, I didn't even ask y'all. Did y'all see any triple tail on Monday? Did y'all look for them at all?
I don't remember if we saw any on Monday. I know I caught one on Sunday. I caught a nice one on Sunday on a live bogey.
Buddy of mine sent me a picture yesterday of a 25-pounder caught right at the mouth.
Ooh, man!
Giant. It was a giant.
This is the time of year for them. I've been seeing a bunch of smallish ones on some of these cans, and my buddy Theo and I went last Thursday just kind of on a scouting mission, and we probably saw about 25 undersized ones under this big mess of rope that was out there floating. It was a pretty cool story I got about that when we started. I caught them all on artificial on these little gulps that I just had free lined on a hook, and so I think I caught 3 or 4, and I was tagging them and releasing them and whatnot. And about the 4th or 5th fish, I swung him in the boat. I got to get a tag out, and I flipped the fish over because I always tag them pointing to the left when I'm facing them. And he already had a tag in him. I just tagged him like 2 fish ago. The same fish twice within about a 5-minute period. It was kind of funny. It tells you how hungry they were. But the crop is looking really good. You know what I mean? There's a ton of little ones around like right now, so that you just tell they're flourishing.
I always hesitate to get involved in any kind of, regulation talk or anything like that. But I really look up to what you guys do as far as the inshore fishery goes with kind of self-regulating how many trout you catch and the size of the fish you catch and keep. And I sure would like to see guys in our area think about that when it comes to triple tail. Man, I know how it sounds too, because I've certainly had my days where I caught my limit. And I don't know. Everybody needs to go do what makes them happy, and no fault to anyone that does what they do within the letter of the law. But it's a small amount of coastline, and we got an excellent fishery. I just hope if you're really out there and it's one of those banner days, you just think about how much you really need to eat versus how much you can catch and what that picture is going to be like. I'd love to see it get better. It could get even better than it is, and I'd love to see it.
Right. In the past couple of years, I would say we have a lot more people who are tagging and releasing and catching and releasing are cognizant of that.
I agree with that.
And the other thing too is when you talk about, you said something about taking a picture, Joe. A picture, you almost, if you look at my Facebook page and everything I do with that, I almost never take a picture of a dead fish because it never looks as good. You know what I mean? It never looks as good when you have a fish that you just pull out of the net, something like that, and snap a picture of. That's the most beautiful setting you're going to get of the fish versus after it's already been in the box and whatnot. And so if you're going out there and catching fish to take pictures, you know what I mean? Snap a picture and get a tagging kit. Miss Southern Miss has got a deal going on for blackfish. I would look to see the tagging program in Alabama get some blackfish tags going here. Probably next year, I would assume we'd see them. They'll start giving them to the public and to kind of go to complement our trout and redfish tags that we already have out. And I would say flounder tags are probably coming on down their way too. So that'd be pretty neat to see.
Yeah, and it gives you something to look forward to. Like if you put a tag in a fish, there's a good chance you're going to find that
hear back about it.
If you tag enough of them, you're going to start to hear about what's happening. And next week, I hope we're able to get her on, but we're going to have Crystal Hightower on with the University of South Alabama to talk about y'all's cobia tagging project. I won't spoil that, but she's been learning some really cool stuff about what they're doing with cobia outside of our area, and it's not what we've always thought when it comes to cobia.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to see what the research says about the fish that you guys have.
Yeah, me too. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, let's talk a little bit about speckled trout and redfish. I was able to fish with, actually got to fish with Bobby on Sunday, and we did a little bit of fishing down in the Mississippi Sound, and we had a fun morning, caught plenty of some of the biggest white trout I've ever caught in my life. I mean, every one I caught, I thought was a speckled trout. I mean, they're big white trout. Caught some specks, but they were spotty. Definitely was not just numbers.
Well, yeah, they're
boom,
called
boom,
speckled
boom.
trout.
Well, the other kind of spotty butch, like
sparse.
Right? Sparse is a good way to put it. We'd catch two fish here, and you'd think, oh, they're that. You'd catch two back to back, bam, bam, and you'd think it's fixing to fire off. And then it wouldn't. What are you seeing, Richard? What's going on inshore?
It's just been just that right there. It's just been very inconsistent, and it's got everything to do with the heat right now. I think it's got the fish real spread out and kind of boogered up. I think they're kind of waiting. I always consider September a transition month, which today's October. It's October. It still feels like September out. We haven't had a breath of cool weather yet.
Feels like July.
We're just kind of stuck in this funky period right now with speckled trout. The red fishing has been a little bit. It's been good and bad. Definitely more consistent than the speckled trout fishing has been. Been up on the causeway a couple of days. Had some really good days and had some tough days. So it's a little hard to tell. They're less affected by the weather. You even see that with the cold weather. They're not near as affected by that cold weather, jumps of temperature range like speckled trout are. But everything is setting up very, very nicely to be a good fall. Up in the Delta, we have lots of pretty green salt water up there. There's shrimp in all the major bays up there, like in Delvan, Polecat, Grand Bay. I even saw them all the way up in Chelsea Bay a couple of weeks, last week. I was up there a little bit. So there's shrimp and bait just everywhere, wads of mullet all over the place.
Man, there was acres and acres of mullet whenever me and Patrick were up there.
I know.
I mean,
it's
crazy.
It's really cool to see. So, like I said, it's setting up to be very, very nice. To be a very nice fall. We just need a little breath of cool weather to kind of get things moving in that direction, And everybody wants to see catch the fish up above the bayway and the causeway. That's not going to happen right off the bat. I would say I always start looking for them just south of the bayway at first. You'll start to see some bird schools working out there, and there's a few wrecks and sandbars and stuff you can catch them on early. And then as it gets on into the end of October, into the first part of November, then that's when you'll usually see the fish kind of push on up above the causeway real good. And they usually show up first part in those shallow bays, the ones I just named off right there is usually where I'll start looking for them once they start to move up.
Richard, you were talking about those bays. As an aside, I feel like, around the turn of the century, even on up into our parents' generation, like they were cooler than us in a lot of ways. They had cool nicknames. They named stuff cool, Polecat Bay, Delvan Bay, Chucky.
Yeah, what the heck is a polecat?
If we were naming it, it'd be like Richards Bay, or something really not cool or exciting at all. But anyway, I digress. Back to fall fishing. You've got a really cool article. I want to point people to it, called Selecting the Best Speckled Trout Rig for Fall Fishing. And I thought you did an excellent job of breaking down 3 different types of rigs that you like to use in the fall. So let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about that article. I'll point y'all to it. You can go to greatdaysoutdoors.com or you can just Google Selecting the Best Speckled Trout Rig. It'll pop up if you Google that as well. Richard, what are 3 things? What are the 3 that you really like? As we're getting up into fall, people need to go stock up if they don't have it. What do you really like? How do you like to break it down? Work from the bottom of the water column on up.
Yep. So that's exactly what I kind of did in that article was go deep, then go suspending, and then go top, and go and starting from, like you said, bottom to the top. I love fishing jigs. And you're always trying to, when you're working a jig up there, I always kind of feel like you're trying to make it look like a shrimp. Needs to, with your action or your rod and whatnot, working the lure through the water column, you want to make it look like a shrimp. And I don't care if it's got a paddle tail, a split tail, a straight tail, whatever type of bait it looks like. I feel like fish are always relating to that looking like a shrimp. So you want to work it like a shrimp. And I got a bunch of good tips in that article about how to be a better jig fisherman. And Richard, I particularly really like that little slick lure.
Talking about those, so you mentioned in that article, you mentioned the little slick and you mentioned the Fishbites line of soft plastic, the Fight Club series.
Mm-hmm.
How big a difference does it make? I mean, those are two similar profile baits, but one's scented and one's not. What do you feel like? Do you feel like there's much of a difference when it comes to, triggering a bite?
I think with when you talk about scented lures, that's almost a go-to must-have for me when I'm fishing for redfish. Speckled trout, in my opinion, are much more visual feeders. You got to make things look pretty for them, and it's got to look real nice and natural and whatnot to trigger a speckled trout bite. So that's kind of how I think in terms of that. But, as it pertains to redfish, I'm always going to have some type of scented bait. When I'm using artificial lures, I'm going to have some type of scented bait on my line. I think that makes a big difference.
Work your way on up now. What do you got in the middle of that water column?
My favorite lure in the world for speckled trout is the slick lure. I've been singing that tune for several years now, and nothing's changed. I don't see anything changing. But I love the slick lure. Probably the most. I would guess that I wish Joey should probably just name the pearl white chartreuse tail like Mobile Bay Special, because that's probably the best the best go-to color that he sells. And then I really like that Cool Beans. Is that he came out with that one last year.
The Cool Beans, that's my favorite too.
Yeah. I tried to get him to call that one Cold Night whenever he made it, because I was like asking for years for a kind of an opening night kind of color, but I wanted him to name it after me, but he named it Cool Beans. But anywho, that's another story. But I like that one, and then the pink and chartreuse is great too. And the trick with those is just throwing it and it's just throwing it a lot and it's starting to develop some confidence in it. It took me, what would probably take a weekend guy several months to figure out. It took me a couple of weeks of throwing it and making myself throw it and figuring it out, basically, figuring out the cadence and how to twitch it and pick up your line correctly and whatnot to feel bites. Because a lot of times, when I first started throwing it, be twitching it along, and then my line would just kind of feel tight, and I never felt the bite, you know what I mean? And you wound up, set the hook, half the time you got them, half the time you didn't. And now I've gotten to where I feel everything with it, and it's all kind of keeping positive contact on the lure with your rod tip. That's a lot of people's downfall with that lure, is that they kind of twitch it and drop the rod tip a little too quick instead of keeping the rod tip coming at them just a little bit. That's kind of the one little trick there, is when you're twitching it, and you're letting it kind of flutter along, you just got to kind of slowly keep your rod tip coming up. And that's when you're going to get your bite. You got to put a big hook set on them too, because of that as well. These guys are on the internet the other day making fun of me how I set the hook on them, you know what I mean? But I think that's what it takes, is making sure you drive the hook, because it's a lot of plastic. It's a huge profile bait.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of plastic. Kind of moving on from there, man. I love throwing top water. And top water is a lot of fun in the fall. Fish really, really gravitate towards top water. And in my article, I kind of went over two different lures that I really like. My all-time favorite big fish top water big fish speckled trout lure is a Zara Spook. And one thing to note that I kind of noted in that article too that I like to do with that is I take the center hook out, take it off. And I actually add a couple of an extra split ring to the front and the back hook to kind of make them dangle a little bit lower and have a little bit more freedom. And because that center hook will want to hang up on the front two hooks. And I like that lure a lot because it really makes a lot of racket. It's a big profile, makes a lot of noise, throws a lot of water. If you start twitching it real hard, you can almost kind of see it throwing water back and forth. And that's how I think about top water. I'm trying to make as much racket with my lure as I can when I'm twitching it along.
When it comes to the fall, getting to know how you guys fish has given me a lot more confidence to throw that top water in the fall. Because growing up, man, I always kind of thought about that as a summer thing. I put my top waters away going into the fall. You guys throw them all throughout the day a lot of times, don't you? I mean, it's not just an early morning low light thing, is it?
No, you can throw topwater all day long, given the conditions. I'm not going to throw it on a bluebird day. Like today, I'm looking at the sky right now. I can't find a cloud in the sky. That's not the day to pick up a topwater at 11 or 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. The times to do that are when you got overcast, got some cloudy conditions, and then of course, your hottest conditions are always going to be early morning, late evening kind of deal with topwater. Those are your low light conditions, and that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with that little slick versus a fight club. The Fishbites deal is trout are visual feeders. That low light condition gives you an opportunity that you don't get all throughout the entire day. The fish can't see as good because it's not quite as bright. Lure doesn't look quite as crisp and clear to them in the morning and the late evening as it does in the middle of the day. If that makes sense, you're almost getting an opportunity there where you get to fool them a little bit. They can't see quite as good.
Definitely.
There's a lot more to that article than what you just hit on, but that was I'd say that was a good synopsis.
Very good synopsis. I agree. I read it. I learned a lot from that article.
And if you're just getting started fishing in this area, it's a great primer on and kind of taking you all the way through. If you've been fishing this area for a long time, I think you'll still take something away from it. Maybe on all three fronts, but definitely in one of those fronts, because you share some pearls in there, man. I really appreciate you writing that article. I enjoyed editing it.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I took the attention to detail to another level. That's the Navy man coming out at me. All those little bitty tips and tricks. You know what I mean? That you pay attention to, I think, really go a long way over time.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Well, attention to detail, that's a good segue into the Hey Cap question this week. It's brought to us by Foster Contracting. On here we talk a lot about safety, and it's really no different when it comes to choosing a company to put a roof on your home. You've worked your whole life for your possessions, and while they are important, the safety of your family is paramount. When you choose the Fortified Roofing professionals at Fortified Roofing Pros, you're making a smart choice. Fortified Roofing Pros has over 25 years serving the Gulf Coast, and they certified over 200 customer roofs last year alone. Give them a call at 251-973-9999. If money is tight, there are financing options available, and you can save up to 40% on your homeowner's insurance with a fortified roof. Don't let the safety of your home go another day unchecked. Learn more about the fortified roofing process at fortifiedroofingpros.com. Richard, you got the Hey Cat question, man. I like this one this week. It's another in detail Hey Cat question, so we're going to break this thing down. Justin Lewis says, Hey Cap, I'm pretty new to saltwater fishing on my own, and I love the knowledge from the podcast you guys do. I have drug my new-to-me boat down from Roanoke, Alabama a few times this year. I'm coming down for the extended October red snapper days. So his first part of his question is, are there any tips for someone who isn't comfortable running more than 15 to 20 miles offshore on how to target red snapper? Richard, you spend probably the majority of your time fishing for red snapper way inside of 15 miles. So let's break this down a little bit for them. What are some of your tips?
Well, number one, most people, that's probably a question I get asked all the time. Hey, how far do you take this boat off? How far offshore do you take this boat? And I'm not scared to take that. My bay boat any distance offshore because I take care of my stuff. You know what I mean? I maintain it. I look at it. I check everything all the time. So that's one thing you want to do is check your safety equipment. Make sure you got a good GPS,
VHF.
good VHF antenna. Looking into next year, I'm probably about to invest into a satellite phone. So those are some things that you can do. And then, of course, maintenance, making sure you got a good bilge pump. My boat's got 2 bilge pumps in it. I think that's important because you never know what's going to happen while you're out there. So just maintaining your equipment and making sure that it's good. The next part of it is, I think, it's creating a good float plan for yourself, doing some homework ahead of time. Know where you're going to go and what you're going to do before you go and do it. Think about it and have several backup plans, because we all know there's a ton of structures that are out off the coast of, like public structures that are out off of our coast, but they're also very heavily fished at times as well. And so if you want to go fish a pyramid or a tank or something and somebody's there, have a backup plan within a couple square mile, a square mile or two of that area, because there's always a public number that's close to that area. And then if you want to go fish a little bit further out, a little further to the east, a little further to the west, have a couple of spots in each little area picked out, because you never know where the biomass of fish is going to be. And then I always try to kind of work in one of those bigger structures into my float plan as well, especially when I'm fishing close in, like some of the Liberty ships or the Bridge Rebel's a great place. I know the Bridge Rebel, that's like it's been there for 100 years, it seems like. But man, I've caught some great fish off of that thing over the years. And then of course all the pyramids and everything else that are out there. And then the other thing too that I always preach to people is, when you're out there running around, pull up your bottom machine and pay attention to that thing while you're running, because you never know what you're going to find. You're going to run across and find while you're out there. It's just unbelievable. The best, about 3 or 4 of the best spots I have are stuff I've just found over the years.
Yeah. Second to that, another thing you can watch for when you're running around out there is, if you ever see a big sea turtle, they're more often than
bait on
not.
top.
Yeah,
School of bonita.
it could be a school of bonita. If you see something that's different, go investigate it, because investigate it with your electronics. More often than not, you see a big old loggerhead sea turtle. That sucker's sitting on top of a reef. Go ahead and go over there. He's orienting to a reef. May not be right on top of it, but it's a good chance he is. See it more often than not. So that's a great point you bring up, Richard, about paying attention to your electronics. And I
right.
liked what you said about the float plan, man. There's so many people who wait until they have a problem to figure out their problem. Go ahead and figure out your problem before you have it.
That's
and
not
then
a problem.
You'll be so much more confident to go ahead and stretch, go ahead and go 15 miles. If maybe you've only been 10, you'll feel better. One thing I'd recommend is, especially if you're coming down, if you know someone in this area who has a boat, definitely tell them where you plan to be and have them on standby in case you have a problem. If you don't know someone in this area, reach out to someone on a Facebook group. Alabama Fleet's a good one. You could go look at the Saltwater Fanatics group. There's a bunch of different people that get online on social media and just say, hey guys, I'm coming down. I'd like to see if there's somebody that would buddy fish with me. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be right next to each other, but just know that. Yeah, stay in contact, and that way, if one of you gets in trouble, you got somebody there that can bail you out. Second to that, get yourself a dadgum service like what Geico has, some kind of on-the-water, service where if you have a breakdown, you know what's going to happen, you know what to do, you're taken care of in that way. Richard, what about the fishing side? I mean, all that is awesome, and I think something people don't think about. But what about the fishing side? On some of these near shore reefs, there's plenty of places somebody can fish inside of 10 miles and catch a limited snapper. What do you think is important for that?
I think number one, fishing the closer in you're fishing, let's just say inside of 60, 70 foot of water, which is where a lot of that first part of the reef zone starts. I think using light line and live bait are two important things to having success. And when I say light line, I mean you're using a fluorocarbon leader, say 40 to 60 pounds. I would usually tend to shy more towards 40 pounds a leader. Make sure you tie good knots. When I usually bottom fish, I do all Palomar knots on everything. It's almost 100% knot. So make sure you tie great knots. Take some time and rig up. Use good circle hooks. Make sure you offset them a little bit, and then make sure you have good live bait. There's a ton of live pogies around right now, as we saw one Monday. It took us, 1 or 2 casts, and we had all the bait we needed for the whole day over there behind Fort Morgan. And then the other day, I threw my net right there around the Billy Goat Hole around the Sea Lab dock, and I caught a handful of real nice, pan-sized pinfish are a great bait. And then you can hook and line croakers all over the place. A lot of guys like to hook and line croakers, like out around some of these public reefs that just have rocks on them, like the CCA reefs or the Denton reefs or something like that. You can go out there and hook and line with little pieces of shrimp or squid, even on a sabiki rig or just a little Carolina rig with a small hook. hook and line, whatever you catch. You know what I mean? Even a snapper, anything pretty much except for a catfish or something like that, you know? So whatever you can get your hands on, I would say using live bait, light line, long leaders is the route I would go. The other route you can go to is just if sometimes if that's not working and you just need to get the box full, go the other direction. Use little small 2-hook rig with some squid and go straight down to the bottom and do that. You know, you're bound to catch your limit of 16-inch snapper on any of these structures that are out there, because we all know how tough it can get sometimes on this bottom fishing stuff. And sometimes that's tricky. Sometimes you get lucky and get on some beatliners or something like that.
Yeah, and you're talking about diversifying, finding other things to catch other than snapper. I would definitely leave out a drift line. I mean, you can just do there's so many ways to do it. You could do a 5/0 hook to some little wire with a cigar minute out there, or even a live pokey. Just keep it out on top, and kind of the current's got to be right. Can't be going in front of the boat. But that drift line, man, you catch anything on there. Bonita, big snapper even. I've caught a lot of big snapper on those drift lines. King.
Yeah, you always hear people talking about that flat line will really produce some bigger red snapper over the years.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that believe in that.
I tell you what, he was also asking about some things he could do to mix it up if he can't find those snapper. I'll call it hooked, not caught as many as I've hooked, but I've hooked quite a few wahoo on a drift line, especially this time of year. There's a good push of blue water. The state record wahoo
9 miles, wasn't it? Or 9 or 11 or something?
I think it was 14. I mean,
crazy.
It's right there. He was on a rig. He caught it on a dead hard. I know the guy saw the fish. Caught it on a dead hardtail on a spinning rod, drifting it. You never know, but I think what you're saying, Butch, is important. Mix it up.
Keep it out. Keep
it up and down in the water column. There's a lot of fish out there. It's not just red snapper. Richard, you do a little chumming too. I haven't done a whole lot of chumming for bottom fish myself. What do you like to do?
The main thing when you go to chumming is to have some type of way to anchor yourself, because it's not like you can bump in and out of gear in some of these areas, depending on how good you can hold up over a spot or around a rig and whatnot. But having some type of way to anchor yourself always seems like that's very important to me. And I always want to get up current and take note of what the current's doing. If the current's moving fast, the faster the current's moving, the further up current of the structure you want to get. And then, of course, the slower it is, the closer you can get. But there's a fine line between how close you get as well, because you don't want to get pulled into the structure, to a rig or to a wreck or whatnot. But I love to use Menhaden pogies. I've got an old school chum churn that I rebuilt that I like to use. I guess they make something now called a Chum Buddy, and then I've heard rumors that J&M makes some that they're manufacturing some type of chum tool over there. Back in the day, before I had a chum churn, I used to just cut it up like you would cut Menhaden up like you would for chunking for tuna.
Just like
throw
like
handfuls of. That's right. Just kind of throw handfuls of it out at a time. And, most times you got clean water, you'll see the fish kind of come up to the boat or see it with your electronics for sure. And what I've always done is just take your circle hook and just bury it inside of a piece of chum and just kind of free line it on back with the bait. And you can get 2 people doing that at the same time while you got your nice and light chum flow going. I usually go a little heavy right when I get somewhere, and then I go nice and light. I'll throw out a handful at a time, or just hit that chum churn 4 or 5 times and let it sit, because you can get them too full to where they won't eat,
yeah.
which is the opposite of what you're trying to do. But you'd be real surprised how many fish are on a lot of these closer in structures. Back when we used to have to deal with a 3-mile state line for reef fish, I used to be able to catch fish good, fairly well inside the 3-mile line using that technique. So it only gets better the farther offshore you go.
Well, Justin, I hope that was enough, man. That was some great tips in there from Captain Richard. I want you to tag us if you catch some fish this weekend. Hit us up on social media. I'd love to see some photos, and good luck to you, man. If like I say, just get you a buddy and get out there. Be safe, number one. But you'll get them. Get out there and get after them. Thanks for the question, Richard. Man, good luck out there, buddy. I hope you stay on those cobia and Don't say too much about the Delta. We need to keep that.
Man, hey, this right now. The period you're about to hit is always feel like I'm torn in half. You know what I mean? Because half of the time I'm wanting to spend down on the southern end, kind of doing what we've been doing with the laying, and I'm probably going to take advantage of the snapper season this weekend. So I'll probably be out and about down that way this weekend. But then, of course, I'm wanting to be up in the Delta too. You know, there's a bunch of sight fishing to be had, a bunch of good red fishing to be had right now up near the Delta. Man, I heard a real great report from Dog River the other day. A buddy of mine said he caught 30 reds on artificial up that way the other day. So, I mean, there's a lot going on starting to happen up that direction. So like I said, I'm always torn right in half, man. Half of me wants to be up to the north and the other half wants to be to the south. I can't ever figure out what I want to do.
Yeah, and there's food plots need to get planted, football games need to be watched, so y'all make sure you don't miss your football games. And
That's right.
Get your seed in the ground.
Couple of good ones this weekend.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I'm gonna be off the water early on Saturday for a 2:30 game. I know for sure.
Yes,
Yep.
I will be watching that one as well.
Be a good one to watch, indeed.
Well, Richard, be safe out there, buddy.
Boys, I appreciate y'all having me on. We'll see you next time.
Thanks,
right.
Captain Richard. Keep whacking them.
Great show today, man.
I like it. I like that Bluewater, some finally stuff's going on there. Ready to get out there, man. I'm excited about our trip coming up on the Escape.
Yep, I am ready
Hope
myself.
that holds up.
I'm ready myself. It's I think we're going to hit it just right. I just got a good feeling about this year. I think we I don't know. It was not a great summer, but all those fish were not caught all summer too,
Right.
So got to be
Yep.
some fish out there, and
Seems to be looking up.
Conditions are looking good for this fall, so hopefully
As long as we can get some decent weather.
just keep things where they are. Well, what'd you learn from today?
Man, I really liked Richard's tips about catching those snapper in close. I think that you need to not be scared about leadering down. Go down to that 40-pound fluorocarbon. It's not going to hurt anything. I mean, the chances of you catching a 40 or 50-pound snapper probably not that great. Lighten up your drag a little bit and go to those lighter leaders. And just to reiterate what I learned from Patrick Garmison, it was probably at the beginning of snapper season. He was talking about fishing those smaller, closer to shore reefs, and he was talking about how he was catching his bigger fish. I think he was saying on the down current side, a little bit off of the reef. And I definitely found that the couple times that I went snapper fishing this year. I think I said it on a previous show, but we definitely did that. I mean, we were 300, 400, 500 feet off of the wreck, and just that's where we caught all of our bigger fish.
Yeah.
So don't be scared if you're right on top of the reef, if you're not crushing them like you think you should. Just drift a little bit. What's the worst that's going to happen? See where those fish are. And if you hooked one up, I mean, you could definitely tell. If we were on the reef and you hooked a decent snapper and, just got off the wheel a little bit and was gaffing the fish or taking a picture and somebody still had a bait down, I mean, you were, like I said, 400 or 500 feet off the wreck and bam, big old giant. And that's where we caught all of our bigger fish. So just look around a little bit. Don't be scared to do that. How about you? What did you take away from today's show?
I think my big takeaway was Captain Devin saying that avoid the crowd. I mean, yeah, some of this stuff seems like common sense, but we violate it all the time, right? Like, there's all those boats over there that they got to be catching fish, right? Let's go over there. It happens in Bluewater, it's like, oh, there's a good bunch of fish at the X rig, whatever rig it is, and then all of a sudden there's 8 boats there. I really like what he was saying there, not only from a perspective of planning your trip, look for, man, I'd much rather fish a weekday than a weekend if possible, but it really tied back in with what Richard was saying about the float plan. And so to kind of add to what he was saying about that float plan is having multiple spots picked out in an area before you go. If I see somebody, if I'm out there and I'm going to go fish public or private stuff, or even a rig for that matter, if I see somebody already there, I'm moving on.
Me too. Always.
I can come back later.
There's too many places to fish to be crowded.
There's so many places to fish. Don't get right up on people, Don't crowd people. You see people complaining about it a lot, but I think some of it is ignorance. They just don't know there's an etiquette to offshore fishing. And
Certainly.
Really, if there's a guy, even if it's a public reef, if he's sitting on that public reef, sure, it's public, it's not his, but he beat you there. Just let him have it for a while. If he's going to catch 4 snapper or 6 snapper or 8 snapper, if there's a bunch of fish there, he's going to be done pretty soon. So move on to another spot. You may catch the fish of your life at the next spot, and you can always come back if you don't. So I really like that. Avoid the crowd.
Absolutely agree with that, man. I like it. It's a good show, man. Gets me fired up.
I'm ready. I wish I'd
have been on that trip with Captain Devin.
Man, I'd love to see a bite like that. That's one for the books.
Maybe on our trip coming up.
You never know.
Let's beat it.
All right, folks. That's going to wrap it up this week. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like us to email you the podcast, just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR, and we'll send you the new show each week. Be sure to get us.
Did you just get Canadian? Show. It's a new show.
The new show.
It's a new show.
Each week. Oh, man. Justin, thanks for that question, buddy. Y'all send us your Hey Cap questions either to Alabama.
I need to make a new Facebook post. It's time.
Is it gonna be you in a tank top? Because isn't that what Justin's getting this week?
Yeah, we can give him a tank top. I think we're getting some more CCA rulers soon, I hope.
Show a little skin. I think we got some stuff coming from Fishbites pretty soon.
Ooh, you're letting that out of the bag already?
Are we recording?
I think so.
But yeah, y'all send us your questions at alabama@bestfishingreport.com or follow us on Facebook and watch for those posts. And love those. Man, we got some good questions in the hopper, but I love it. That might be my favorite part of the show.
Got to keep them coming.
Something that I never thought to ask. So
yeah,
I love it. All right, guys. We sure appreciate y'all listening. Y'all be safe out there, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Fishbites. Fishbites stay on the hook longer than any natural bait. Check them out at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air, your home performance specialist. Contact them at 251-260-3858 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. License number AL07028.
Also brought to you by Geico. Call Ron Davis, Geico agent at 251-445-0053 or visit him online at geico.com/mobile-al.
And also, Great Days Outdoors, the South's finest hunting and fishing magazine. Pick up your copy wherever magazines are sold or check them out at greatdaysoutdoors.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.